There's a common saying in Kansas City that goes, don't like the weather? Just give it a few minutes. But what's the weather really like in KC? This saying gets a lot of traction in places where the weather tends to be unpredictable. And let me tell you, Kansas City is no exception, and it may just be the biggest deterrent for many people who are considering moving here. So in this video, I'll be covering what every season in Kansas City is really like, just how often we get catastrophic weather events like tornadoes, and giving you a few firsthand examples of the wacky weather here in Kansas City. Okay, so if you're curious about my top pick for the best season in KC, just scroll through my phone's photo gallery. I'm talking a whopping 78% of my picks and videos from October onward are dedicated to one thing: trees. Seriously, I can be cruising down the street or taking a leisurely walk and out comes my phone for an impromptu photo shoot. The beauty is just too much to resist. Check out a few of these recent shots if you don't believe me. And I'm not the only one hooked on the fall feels. I had a great chat with a client who's making a leap from California, and she couldn't get over how vibrant the colors are here. She said it felt like her eyes were on sensory overload, taking in the full spectrum of fall. So it's not just me, the magic of autumn in Kansas City is hard to ignore. That sense of wonder is why fall clinches the title of my favorite season in Kansas City. My neighborhood, for example, is lined with these giant trees that form a canopy over the street. And I make a point to slow down and soak it all in because, let's be real, this leafy spectacle doesn't stick around for long. And if you want the ultimate fall foliage tour, take a drive down Ward Parkway. It's like the VIP route for catching the kaleidoscope of colors. Lucky for me, it's part of my daily commute, but having giant trees like that does come with some disadvantages. And that is the sheer amount of leaves that I have to pick up from my yard. You may be able to hear it, but on both sides of me and across the street, we have a leaf pickup party today. It's supposed to rain on Sunday, so we want to get all of the leaves out of the yard before that happens. And if you look at this, I still have a ton of leaves on my tree. So it is one of the downsides to living in Kansas City during the fall. I ended up with a dozen bags of leaves, and that was just my front yard. All right, let's chat about the fall temps here. It's a bit of a roller coaster. October's cruising at a comfy 68 degrees, and by November, we're looking at a cool 54, but hold on tight because unpredictability is the name of the game. One week we're basking in the 60s and 70s, and the next we're diving headfirst into the 30s and 40s. This Halloween, for instance, was the coldest one since we rolled back into town in 2020. Highs topped out at a very chilly 41 degrees, so trick-or-treating with the kiddos was a brisk adventure. But hey, shout out to my neighbors who brought out the fire pits in their front yards. That was the real MVP move. And when I start griping about KC winters, someone always goes, wait, didn't you used to live in Denver? Yeah. Guilty as charged, and truth be told, I miss Denver winters. Sure, you wake up to a foot of snow, but by lunchtime, the sun's out and it's all melted. I've shoveled literal feet of snow in a t-shirt. Unlike Denver, Kansas City doesn't quite play in the snow league. First off, we don't even get that much snow. Any guesses on our average snowfall? Drop them in the comments below. While you're pondering just how much snow we get here in Kansas City, well, it snowed last night, and it's only a few days after Thanksgiving. This is pretty early for snow here, and we got about 1.5 inches last night. But this just goes to show the unpredictability of the weather. A week ago, we had 65, gorgeous, cleaning up leaves. The next day it was raining, and then today we have snow on the ground. So you get to experience a ton of seasons within a short period of time here in Kansas City. Turns out we're talking less than 20 inches a year, way below the national average of 28 inches. On the flip side, we're making up for it with more rain than the national average. So yesterday it was mid-60s, sunny, beautiful. I cleaned up a bunch of leaves, got about 12 bags picked up, and today it's raining. On average, we get about 42 inches of rain here in Kansas City, which is above the national average of 38 inches of rain every year. So get ready for a lot of weather like this. And you can see behind me, I already have a lot more leaves to pick up and even more in the backyard. Okay, let's talk about the winter rain. It's not all cozy vibes and hot cocoa. Nope, we're talking freezing rain, the real deal. Sometimes before the leaves even hit the ground, we get hit with a freezing rainstorm, and trust me, that's when things can go south. The ice starts piling up on the tree limbs, which can sometimes break under the weight and take out power lines with them. But wait, there's more. Enter black ice, the ninja of road hazards. It's this thin, almost invisible layer of ice that even winter tires can't handle. Now, when it comes to temperature, December through February is like the cold trilogy. Highs dance around 40 and the lows dip into the mid 20s. And oh, those weeks in late January or early February, you're lucky to hit double digits. Brace yourself and hunker down. That's the winter drill. Pro tip, try and escape somewhere warm and sunny around then. Trust me, it's a game changer. Now, if you've made it this far and you're still considering a move to Kansas City, be sure to download our free relocation guide in the comments below. Then, as winter bows out and spring struts in, Kansas City puts on a show. But hold on, spring has its own bag of tricks, and there's one particular trick everyone's itching to know about when they're eyeing a move to the Midwest. You ever find yourself reminiscing about the movies you binged as a kid and go, wow, that was totally inappropriate for my age? If you're nodding along, welcome to the Millennial Club. We've all been there. Now let's take a trip down 90s memory lane. Growing up in that era was a wild ride. So picture this, little 9 or 10-year-old me glued to the screen watching Twister. Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton storm chasing like there's no tomorrow with Dorothy strapped down in the back of their pickup truck. On one hand, I was ready to become a full-fledged storm chaser. On the other hand, it had me downright terrified of tornadoes. And here's the kicker, growing up in the Midwest, that fear of tornadoes is practically in your DNA. But did that stop me from watching Twister more times than I can count? Nope, it's still hands down a cinematic masterpiece in my opinion. Yet, every time those tornado sirens wail, which is more often than you'd think, thanks to monthly tests, not constant twisters, it's like a flashback. Now, it turns out I'm not alone in this tornado-induced anxiety. A bunch of folks share the same sentiment. Maybe it's the movie trauma talking, but it's a topic that often pops up, especially when chatting with someone eyeing a move to Kansas City, especially if they're coming from a coastal area. Now, let's talk tornado stats for KC. Not really a tornado hotspot, but we did have a wild summer with a microburst that wreaked havoc. Trees toppled, cars squished, houses got hugged by falling trees. It was a mess. Truth is, it's the rural areas that are more tornado prone. Twister, anyone? Remember how most of it went down in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma? That's the vibe. Here in the metro, we get more of those ominous skies, wild lightning shows, and the occasional golf ball sized hail. Eventually, you get kind of used to the monthly siren tests and those precautionary basement trips. It's just part of that Midwest charm. Another thing about spring in KC is it's like Mother Nature decided to throw a pollen party and everyone's invited. You know those days when it seems like the air is just buzzing with stuff? Well, that stuff is pollen, and it's the culprit behind the sneezing extravaganza that happens in the spring. And let me tell you, Kansas City doesn't mess around. We've got a whole lineup of allergens from oak, birch, and cedar trees that kick things off early in the season. Then just when you think you're in the clear, bam, grass pollen waltzes in, followed by the grand finale with the notorious ragweed. It's a bit of a dance, really. You learn to navigate the season, swap allergy remedies like trading cards, and maybe throw in a few creative curse words when the pollen count is sky high. Despite some sneezing and itchy eyes, it's a fantastic time to head out and enjoy nature. You have to check out the cherry blossoms in Loose Park. The temperature here is near perfect, with temps topping out at 66 degrees in April and a perfect 75 degrees in May. Finally, buckle up, because when summer hits, Kansas City is like the whole city cranks up the heat and humidity to 11. We're talking about that sticky, sweaty, I need a shower again kind of summer. First things first, the temperatures here don't mess around. The thermometer becomes your daily mood ring, and let me tell you, it's not always in the happy zone. We have days where stepping outside feels like entering a giant sauna, and you start questioning your life choices. But it's not just the heat, it's the humidity that turns everything into a steam bath. Your hair, prepare for it to have a mind of its own. That perfectly styled do you left the house with, by midday, it's more like a don't. And then there are the thunderstorms. They're like clockwork. One moment it's scorching hot, and the next, the sky opens up with a torrential downpour. It's almost like nature's way of saying, hey, I know it's hot, so here's a free shower for everyone. But here's the saving grace: the lakes. Kansas City may not have an ocean, but we've got some pretty sweet lakes to become our go-to escape. I, for one, am all about that lake life, whether it's fishing, jet skiing, or just lounging on the shore with a cold drink. The lakes around Kansas City are where it's at in the summer. And let's not forget the outdoor concerts and festivals. Sure, it might be hotter than the surface of the sun, but that won't stop me from enjoying live music at Starlight or catching a show at Grinders. So summer in Kansas City is a mixed bag of heat waves, thunderstorms, and a whole lot of sweating, but hey, I wouldn't have it any other way. It's our kind of summer, and we embrace it with open arms, preferably while holding an ice cold drink. If after all that, you're still mulling over a move to Kansas City, but you're trying to figure out which neighborhood vibes with you, well, you're in for a treat. We've got the inside scoop on the top 10 neighborhoods. Check that video out right here for your personal guide to the top Kansas City neighborhoods.